As a reminder to folks that we do record these meetings and we do host them on our Welcoming Communities website. So if you miss anything or a colleague misses anything, they're always available there. So that's why we record these meetings. And welcome everyone. Excited to convene our first Real Providers Network meeting of the year after a really great community consultation that we had in January. Really the theme of today's meeting is what's new, what's next, what new locations and new programs and new resources are we thinking about and focused on this coming year. And I think I would love to open the meeting with an update from Tracy Dolan, the State Refugee Coordinator's Office, on private sponsorship of refugees, which some folks maybe have been hearing about lately. So Tracy, if you don't mind kicking us off.
Would I be able to share my screen?
Yes, let me.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy, and I'm the director of the State Refugee Office, and that's located in the Agency of Human Services in Waterbury. And it's not part of a department, it's part of the overall service. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. There we go. Let me see if I can find what I need. Just be one moment. Just give me one more minute here. Let's see if there's another way I can find it. I'm not used to share screen on Zoom, so it doesn't appear to be giving me what I was hoping for. Alex, if you don't mind just giving me one more second, I'm going to see if there's a way I can.
Joe, if I think I saw you may be coming back in. Have an update. Let's see. Well, maybe I'll run through the agenda more specifically while we wait. So the other, what we'll be talking specifically about in terms of some exciting new things happening in the Deerfield Valley. So, as we have volunteer co-sponsor groups there and placement happening there and growing in Bennington County. Those will be the next agenda topics, and then a short presentation from HCRS on mental health services, which I know has been brought up in the past at these meetings. So just exciting new things happening. And Tracy, I can see your screen, so perfect time.
Great. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to briefly describe again, just because I know some people are interested in starting to ask questions, and also because we have a co-sponsorship program in the Brattleboro-Bennington area. I just wanted to explain what we know so far about the differences. So Welcome Corps is a new program launched by the U.S. Department of State. And the goal is to have more Americans basically touching the refugee resettlement process. I think the longer term, sort of deeper goal is to have a refugee program that's a little more resilient, so that no matter what kind of administration comes in, it might be more difficult to dismantle it. The refugee program was fairly well dismantled under the Trump administration and became very, very small. And so I think the hope is also that if it's shared in this way, there might be aspects of it that are a little more resilient because so many more people would be involved. And it was launched January 19th. I'm just going to see if there's a way I can move to the next. There we go. And there are a variety of consortium members that are part of this Welcome Corps. There's Church World Service, Community Sponsorship Hub, and a variety of other organizations. But Welcome Corps is overall the name of it. And so that's probably what you'll hear when you hear about it. So a private sponsorship group. So a private sponsorship group commits to a 90-day sponsorship period to provide core private sponsorship services. And so those include picking the person up at the airport, getting them, ensure that they get their first hot meal, signing them up for benefits, helping them find housing, helping them find work. So all of the things that a refugee resettlement agency like ECDC would normally do in that first 90 days would happen through a private sponsorship group in this model. And ideally, private sponsorship groups will have access to support and resources to help them with the application, help them make those plans. And that support will come in the form of a private sponsorship organization. Welcome Corps is pretty sketchy right now on what private organizations would be, the private sponsorship organizations. A lot of us in the refugee resettlement world, people like me, the state refugee coordinator, we were really pushing that these kinds of organizations should be local within a state, because the kind of help you need is kind of unique for each state. But I suspect that these will probably be primarily national organizations. So they will know some of the basics, but they won't necessarily know the unique pieces of your state. And the private sponsorship group requirements, you have to have at least 5 members who are over 18 years old. They get background checks and training. They submit the application, including a really clear plan of how they plan to achieve those first 90 days in the services. And they raise $2,275 per refugee sponsored. So they are not supported through funding. So resettlement agencies get some funding to do this work. These organizations who are private citizens coming together would not. There aren't really clear paths right now on what it means to utilize that funding. For example, in order to receive Reach Up and some other benefits, they check your income. So things like raising the money and then just handing it off could be a real challenge, because it could kick you out of the income test needed to get benefits. So there's some areas that I think Welcome Corps is still working on to be really clear around their guidance around things like that, for example. Just going to do a little bit more. So the private sponsor organizations, community organizations, and institutes can apply as private sponsor organizations. And I believe if you go to the Welcome Corps website, there's ways to do that. To my knowledge, we think that mostly those will be national, but uncertain at this point. And I think from here, this is more information. Yeah, this was a little bit more about exactly which partner's doing what. So I think I'll leave it there. I'm just going to stop share. There we go. And just adding that right now this year, even though they did open it up countrywide, I think the goal is to just concentrate in a few states this year, probably about 4 states, probably some of the larger states where there's been a pretty high number of private sponsorship and sponsor circles. So unlikely that Vermont would be a significant partner this year. But in the future, we expect activity across the country. And this year they plan to bring in 5,000 refugees, so nationwide. So those would be pretty low numbers. And the other piece I just wanted to mention again, so that's the Welcome Corps, and that's bringing in refugees and into these private sponsorship groups. The initial phase is really just matching you up with refugees who need to be placed here. There's a second phase that's pretty unspecified and doesn't have a lot of work attached to it yet, but where you would actually choose the refugee. So you would come in with a name. And then in the country where that refugee is residing or that person's residing, they would be slotted into the refugee program. There are some concerns around that too, in terms of moving people up in the line. So we're not sure when that will be launched. But the first part of this will really be just matching people who are really in a backlog situation, who have been having refugee status for a long time. The other piece I just wanted to update you on, this is again a national picture, but there is a new parole program that started a few months ago for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. And they can come here. They have, I think, a 2-year parole period where they can work. They can also be sponsored. So somebody on this side in the US can put in an application to sponsor somebody from one of those 4 countries. You name them. So again, this is that connection. And then the person on the other end applies to come, and they also name their sponsor. So it's really, they would need to know each other from each side or have the same name on their applications. And that program is up and running very rapidly. There's been an 85% drop of Cubans and Haitians coming across the border as a result of this program, because now they're going through this program. So it is cutting down on some of the chaos at the border. And again, that's a financial supporter arrangement. So it's not like the sponsorship that I just mentioned. It's really more of a financial supporter. Um, a couple of more updates are the Afghans, many of them here right now are on humanitarian parole. That is a 2-year status. We are learning from the US immigration system that it is likely there will be a re-parole process. They are likely to announce that. The details of it probably May. So we're hearing informally that there's going to be a re-parole. And so that's very good news. And Afghans will be invited to apply. Ukrainians who are also here on a 2-year humanitarian parole will also have an opportunity to resubmit and reapply for parole. I'm hearing that that process might not be as smooth, but those programs are coming. In the meantime, though, people can apply for TPS, which is a protected status, a temporary protected status. And so some people are choosing to do that just in case something happens and Congress doesn't want re-parole to happen. Again, a very low chance of that, or just in case there is some kind of delay. So a lot of people are applying for temporary parole status to just ensure that they are able to remain here. But we are hearing pretty strongly that there will be a re-parole status. I think, oh, and yeah, I think that's about it right now. We will be, as a state, getting additional legal support money for Afghans. So a lot of Afghans have been receiving legal support to adjust their status, to put in asylum applications. We'll be receiving more funding, so we should be able to continue to support that service. AALV has mostly been providing the legal support for the folks in your area. And USCRI has mostly been providing the support for the kind of Colchester, Chittenden, Montpelier area. And then finally, outside of the refugee world, we are hearing and seeing that there's a lot of activity on the border. We're hearing from some of our nearby states that a lot of folks are coming in as asylum seekers from other countries. We don't have a lot of firm information. I have reached out to the Border Patrol to see if we can get a meeting to just understand a little bit more about the activity on the border and where folks go. I know sometimes if they're not meant to be here, they're held at the corrections center, and then I believe ICE picks them up, and pretty unclear about next steps there. So we do know that the asylum seeking organizations like CASP in your area, but there's 5 others across the state, they have been getting busier. And we are hoping to get a little bit of financial support to those organizations. So this current year, we're going to get a little more money from the legislature to assist with all kinds of people connecting to employment who are new Americans, mostly refugees, but also some funding to assist CASP and other organizations in helping people stay in Vermont when they come in through a less formal mechanism like asylum seeking. And that support will hopefully continue for a couple of years. So just starting to dip our toe at a state level into understanding that a little more. I'll pause and happy to answer any questions.
Great. Hearing no questions. Thank you so much for that update. I know both legal support, family reunification, those have been a top of mind and will really be what allows us to build an immigrant community in our region that thrives. And so I see a lot of these changes as making progress towards those goals. And even if it takes a while and there are equity concerns around people skipping the line, who have been waiting a long time, it is also really important for people who have family in other countries who are in line to be reunited with their families. And so I think that it's balancing a lot of differing priorities and needs. And so I think that in the long term, these are exciting developments for us all to think about. And particularly around private sponsorship, I see groups like this even more important, that are open to everyone to learn about how the system works, whether you're private, public, you name it.
So and can I just add on the family reunification, there is a process that the Fed set up in the last few months for private family unification for the Afghans, and that information has been shared. I believe most people who wanted to go through that process have filled out that paperwork. I think ECDC has supported them in doing that. But just to let you know, there is now a more formal process for family reunification. We don't know how quickly that will go. I don't know that everyone will be qualified for it, but there is a process on that end. And then the final thing is on the asylum applications, it is slowing down. Initially, we were told that people would have an appointment within 150 days, and that has slowed down considerably with all of these other programs coming online. But they continue to assure us that the approval rate, if you do apply for asylum as an Afghan through this program, is very high. And if you have not heard, that doesn't mean you're not going to be approved. It means really we're just very behind on that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Any last questions before we move on? Great. All right. I'd like to invite Joe, if you have any updates you'd like to share. I know we'll focus a lot on Bennington and the Deerfield Valley, but anything else you want to share, by all means.
Yeah, I want to do a presentation. Can you share screen with me, Alex?
All right, give it a shot. We'll see if it.
Let me see. Oops. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep, all good.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. So the focus for today from us will be on the Bennington site as well as Deerfield Valley, the recent refugees that we resettled there. So some of the information I'm going to provide here will be repetitive because I provided some of those informations at the RIPSnet as well as our quarterly consultation. Just to go straight into the presentation, you know, I will not go more into the overview because I've done that many times about ECDC as one of the 10 refugees resettlement agencies. But what I want to talk about is the objective of this presentation is to provide you with the updates on the current and future arrivals and progress we all have made. So going straight into Bennington, on the Afghan program, we have settled 32 people already in Bennington. So we have been working in Bennington for a little while now. In October of 2022, Bennington was designated as new resettlement site by the Department of State. And that means that now it's an officially recognized site that where we will continue to resettle refugees. So on the 17th of this month, we open our new office there, and now the office is officially open to both our clients and our partners. We currently have 2 full-time staff in Bennington. The case manager and office lead is Megan Winslow, and also we have Jack, who, and I see Jack on this call. And between March and April of this year, we expect to hire 2 more staff in Bennington, bringing our total to 4 staff. We're hoping to have a joint housing and employment navigator and 1 community engagement office manager. Our Brattleboro office will continue to supervise and support Bennington office. So this means that some of our Brattleboro staff time will be split between Brattleboro and Bennington. By the end of March of this year and the beginning of April, we expect that Bennington will now start receiving new arrivals. And the projection for this year is still 50 individuals. Of the new arrivals, we think that they will be coming from all over the world, but we expect that majority of them might come from Afghanistan because of the existing community we have in Bennington. And depending on the available housing at the time of arrival, if the SRT site campus is still available to us, we might be able to temporarily house people on SRT campus while we look for housing for them in Bennington. But if housing is available before arrival, then refugees will move straight to Bennington to start their services there. Services, refugees in Bennington completed their domestic health assessment and have signed up for Medicaid, and those are refugees that are already there. Like Brattleboro, access to dental health care remains a challenge. Our health navigator will work with the Bennington staff there to start organizing health awareness activities in Bennington. And in collaboration with ACRS through its partners in Bennington, we hope to start organizing mental health awareness in Bennington. Employment for refugees continue to receive employment and job retention support services in Bennington. And I will, after my presentation, I will call on Megan and Jack to give more details on the figures. This year, our employment services manager, along with the Bennington staff, will provide initial job placement services in Bennington. Through partnership with Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation and its counterpart in Bennington, we will continue to work together for system level support for both Bennington employers and our clients there. Legal support, Tracy talked about some of the legal support. Language support. School for International Training, SIT, will continue to provide English language support in Bennington, and they are working through the tutorial center. Legal support, we will continue to provide legal support services through African Association living in Vermont that is based in Burlington, for all refugees living in Bennington. Currently, the support we are providing is mostly for the Afghan, and because the support we receive from the federal government is mostly Afghan support services when it comes to legal support. For state benefits, all arrivals sign up for food stamps and Medicaid. Those qualify for Reach Up and enroll into Reach Up program. Our case managers will continue to provide state benefit enrollment support to incoming refugees. Ukraine program, we are still recruiting a case manager for this program who will be responsible for outreach in Bennington area. Refugees support services, we're currently providing name-based case management services to individuals and families in Bennington. For tax preparation, we are coordinating tax support for our clients through the local FITA tax preparation program there in Bennington. Community partnership and outreach in Bennington area. We continue working with community volunteers, especially the Open Arms, Bennington Open Arms, to provide wraparound services for families. Given the slow pace of arrivals this year, we continue outreach to form new teams for new arrivals. We are working to strengthen and broaden our local partnerships. We have started outreach to key community partners and providers in the Bennington area. Some of those providers are here and partners are here, like the town of Bennington, Bennington Police, the Bennington County Sheriff Office. We also continue outreach to new employers, and also community to other community outreach groups like the Bennington Rotary and the Vermonter Rotary and Bennington Interfaith Council, like the St. Peter Episcopal Church. We also continue to outreach to local AHS staff to discuss and learn from each other about the resettlement process and how to provide better access to state services to our clients. We are planning to coordinate with the Bennington Free Library to host a community cultural event this spring. That's about Bennington, and let me give you DFE Valley update. DFE Valley is part of the Brattleboro office, so that means all staff and staffing and support are from Brattleboro. Our first arrival who moved to the DFE Valley is a family of 4 consisting of a husband, wife, and 2 daughters, and a 5 years old, who are under 5. Last week, we welcomed another family consisting of a single mom and an 11-year-old boy who is sharing home with the family of 4 in the DFE Valley, specifically in Wilmington. For the family that just arrived last week, we don't have much update on the family today. But next time we will give you more details on this family. Both families are acclimating well, and the co-sponsorship members warmly welcome them. The first family of 4 is being provided with the following services. Case managers have signed them up for state benefit, including food stamps. Employment case manager is working with them to find a job. Through their co-sponsors, they have a fully furnished, beautifully and decorated house. They are provided with transportation to get to their appointments, including domestic health assessment, EAL, and primary care provider. They have been referred for assessment priority for the young child and EAL classes in Brattleboro. And the pre-K began 5 years, pre-K started school already at the Beverly Brook School. For our plan for DFE Valley, working with World Learning to expand ESL services so that our clients can easily access classes rather than taking a long bus ride to Brattleboro 4 days a week. We assure an additional 6 Eritrean cases, totaling about 14 individuals. About 10 people will be moving to DFE Valley, and others may be housed in Bennington and Brattleboro. Anticipated arrivals family size is about family of 4. We have parents and 2 sons under 5. This family is connected to a single male relative who is also resettling with us. We have a single male that is connected with the family above. We have a family of 3 single mom and 10-year-old son and 7-year-old daughter. A family of 2 single dad and 17-year-old daughter. A family of 3 husband, wife, and 6-year-old son, and a single male. And these are anticipated arrivals. I think this is it. Thank you, and I stop for questions. Or before questions, maybe I want to ask Megan and Megan and Jack to share, to give some updates. Megan?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Megan, and I am the Bennington programs lead over here in Bennington. We now have a new office, as Joe said, and Jack is there right now. So if you would like to come and meet with us, if you're a Bennington partner, we are now in the office space above St. Peter's Episcopal Church at 200 Pleasant Street. And we do have limited hours because it's just 2 staff members, and I am imminently going on leave, so it will just be 1 again. So our office hours are Monday mornings 9 to 11:30, also Wednesday mornings 9 to 11:30, and Tuesdays and Thursdays 3 to 5. You can pretty much guarantee that one of us will be in the office during those times. Otherwise, it's best to make appointments with us. So we have begun hosting community events in our new space, meeting with our co-sponsors, but also with our community partners, and trying to do more outreach to new community partners who ECDC has not had a lot of contact with until now. That includes service providers. It also includes general people within our town structures. So town management, law enforcement, these kinds of things, but also with new employers. So hoping to get some more employers interested in working with us as people start to learn about the fact that ECDC has a presence in Bennington now. Jack, do you have anything else to say?
I guess just that we are starting to also do more community education and work with partners directly on providing that. So Joe mentioned that we have this upcoming cultural event that we're working with the Bennington Library on, but we also were able to coordinate with the library a staff training led by a couple of refugees in town that went really well last week, helping them learn a little bit about some of the sort of best practices culturally and also pronunciation of some words so that they could better help any folks from the refugee community who might want to use the library. But that, because of that training, there's also relationships getting built now, we have heard, that are going to lead to more engagement, even independent of our direct coordination efforts, so that the library can become a place that really best serves the refugee community and connects directly with them. So that's the kind of work that we're looking forward to doing a lot more of, but that has also really begun kind of percolating up. So just wanted to mention that.
I also just wanted to mention that, Joe, you had said we might expect some new arrivals in March or April. My thought is that given the way that typical RNP services work, we might begin to accept allocations in March or April, but the arrivals may not come until a little bit later, late April, maybe May. Just given the fact that once you accept a new case, it typically takes some time for somebody to arrive.
All right, great. Mark, are you online before I ask Sue to come in? Mark Clark, any update from you?
I think the only thing I would add is that we are doing our first intakes with Ukrainians up in Orange County this week. We've had some online support for Ukrainians to date, but this will be our first site visit to do an intake with them at their home. So we're looking forward to that. Otherwise, our staff expansion continues. As Joe said, we're hiring for some more positions over in Bennington. We're also actually looking for a full-time case manager for the Ukrainian program here based out of Brattleboro. So if you happen to know of anyone who might be interested in doing that type of work, please feel free to send them my direction. I'll put my email in the chat after this. Thanks.
All right, I saw Sue hand up. Sue, you have
Yeah,
a question?
questions.
Hi, this is a little out of the scope of what I do, but I'm curious about how what this looks in Deerfield Valley and Bennington around it, especially Deerfield Valley, because it is in the Brattleboro district, which I serve. I'm the field services director for the Agency of Human Services, and I'm with the amount of families with children that are entering that community. I'm just curious about what school, kind of the readiness of the community and schools and childcare and all that, what that kind of looks like, because I think that's a great example of you know, how this can be wonderful and disruptive in a good way to local communities that are pretty stretched on resources, from my understanding, day in and day out. So I'm just curious what some of that kind of, particularly Deerfield Valley, but certainly speak to it in Bennington, what that like community preparation and conversation looks like. If anyone can speak to that, that'd be awesome. Specifically around education and other things.
Okay.
Do you want me to speak, Joe, about Deerfield Valley?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Karen Hine, sponsorship group and lead on health. So as I understand it, we are the first to welcome African new neighbors. And again, as Joe has explained, we currently have 2 families and we are looking to have more. So in our outreach and thinking about creative ways to engage the community, so much has been done that's been focused on Afghans. So you may know that the New England James Beard Award finalist is an Eritrean, and our folks are Tigrayan Eritrean. So one of the concepts that we're thinking around community awareness raising is to do maybe a couple of events, one as a fundraiser, but also to heighten the cultural significance of this particular chef in Vermont and then our new neighbors in the Deerfield Valley. So we're trying to adapt more towards who we have rather than just repeating some of what's been done for the Afghans or for other folks. Secondly, in terms of schools, we already have the Just 5-year-old in the Beaverbrook School, and that started within a couple of weeks of her arrival. So that's really great. And we've done the preparation work to say to the elementary, high school, pre-K groups that they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. So we're sort of poised in that way, and our education core team member works in the schools. So we have that sort of all lined up. What we really need to do is sort of like the next step. We've done letters to the select board, we've done presentation select board, we've done all that kind of stuff. But right now we are needing to kick it up a notch, both in terms of more fundraising for the additional 2 families that we're expecting, and also more volunteers, and perhaps more specialized volunteers, like we ourselves might want to have a fundraiser volunteer, given that we now are going to have 4 families. We've already raised the money for 2, and then also around communications. So we did our initial real push for community awareness before we had any families. So now we're kind of up to, all right, folks, this is all real. We've done new presentations to the Lions Club and the Rotary. Both of those organizations have given us grants. So we're just ready to kick it up a notch in terms of awareness, communication, and engagement with more community members.
I can just piggyback. This is Tracy Dolan. On the education front, I'm realizing, so the Agency of Education actually can do a good sort of overview with schools who are not as familiar with having refugee students or students who need ELL. So maybe, Joe, what I'll do is figure out a way to connect with you when new families come into a new area like Deerfield, and I'll check in on Bennington too, because what we can do is get the Agency of Education to talk through a lot of the questions that the schools have. You know, the ELL is a challenge in places where they haven't had it before, but overall, I think the ALE would be a good contact.
Right. And on that point, on the system level, to Sue's question, we had a meeting last week on how engaging with this school district, so that we'll be able to continue working with the DFE Valley schools there, especially on the English language support and other support to refugees children. So we're trying to reach. I'm not sure whether Deb is responsible for DFE Valley, but we already have a plan of reaching out to them to see how we continue engaging with the school district on that. But we have in the past, we have already had discussion with the DFE Valley School, and some of the co-sponsorship teams have reached out to the school, and we have had multiple discussions.
So just before I ask Megan and Jack to jump in, can you send me who you're working with at the school around ELL, because we have our ELL working group that we host for women in Bennington counties. And so having their teachers involved and coming to that would be great. So if you just, anytime, we don't have our next meeting scheduled yet. So just including them would be really great.
All right, great.
And Jack and or Megan. Sorry.
I just wanted to mention that it would be a good.
Ooh, I just lost Megan. Did others as well?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Okay.
I thought I had problems.
Frozen.
Yeah. Jack, do you want to comment quickly? I see your hands raised.
Sure, just that we, have been meeting regularly with the schools out here. The schools have hired an interpreter, which is really helpful. We currently only have one language represented, but there are enough children that was something that the schools are able to proactively provide. And so that's really helped with a lot of the kind of cultural learning both ways. And that has been something that we've also had to be really attentive to, which is that we have many families who are learning about navigating an education system for the first time. So it's not only about the schools here learning about working with refugees, it's also many of the people in our refugee community learning about not just the American school system, but just school systems in general. And so we've been working really hard with the schools here to help put systems in place that will also not only serve the current population, but will help them be able to think proactively and understand what kind of supports will be best for the arrivals who are planned. I don't think that's necessarily what Megan was going to say, but that's my 2 cents on sort of where particularly the schools have been coming in so far, and they've been a very supportive partner for the most part.
Great. And I was going to say, I knew I saw Melissa and Jonathan come in. And so Melissa, I see your hand raised. So thanks to you both for being here. Bennington Schools.
Yeah, so I'm the EL coordinator for the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union for our school district. We have at least Actually, right now I'm looking, we have 5 different languages across the board for our EL learners who are currently EL. We have 2 EL teachers. I'm very grateful to them. And we also have, yes, we do have an interpreter. We're bringing in some other platforms of some tools to make sure that we connect with our families. Communication is something that we're constantly working on. While everybody's in the room, I have a strong advocate right now to say the testing is coming up, and some of my EL students are going to have to take those EL tests. And I was heartbroken to see that Persian and Dari are not offered as on the platform for students to use. And we will find a way to break down those barriers within the school. But it was a little heartbreaking to see that the AOE did not make that accommodation for the many students that we have here who need that and will be required to take that assessment. So I'm going to take my 2 cents to say to this group, who I don't think I'm going to convince any of you that we should be doing that, that was an oversight that I'm hopefully in the years coming up that will be looked at. Otherwise, we are leaving some people out, and we never want to do that.
Fantastic comments. This is the benefit of having so many different people in the room, is someone will catch something that, you know, I didn't know at all about. And so that's perfect. And I think we can definitely find a way to escalate these concerns to the right people at AOE, as individuals and together as a region. Megan, welcome back. So it looks like you froze. If you want to just wrap up the comments before we transition to HCRS.
Thank you. I got booted out, so I don't really know what was already said, but I just wanted to encourage schools that are new to working with new Americans to reach out to other schools in the region, because there's a lot of work being done, and you all can learn from each other about what is working and what has been challenging and how can we sort of work to resolve those challenges. So I don't know if that was already said, but thank you.
Great. Thanks so
Thank you.
much. Any other questions or comments? I'm wondering if points of contacts from the different newish areas wouldn't mind just putting your names and emails or how to reach out in the chat. So if there's something particular one of us thinks about for the Valley or for Bennington, or a connection we want to make, just so we have some of that information in the chat, that would be great. And I would love to have our folks from HCRS share about their new program and the services they're offering now.
Thank you, Alex. Steve Jurenkov, I'm the area manager for Brattleboro for HCRS. And I'd like to, we're very excited to be a part of this and to report on our progress. I'm going to introduce Judith Dickerman Nelson, who is our main person implementing the grant here, and let you take it away, Judith.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Yes, we're quite excited. Our grant is called the New Neighbors Wellness Program, and it is funded through the state of Vermont. Generously funded this program to work with the refugees and asylum seekers within the area around mental health. As we all know, the folks are coming from traumatic experiences, and we want to assist them. And we've been working with ECDC and Joe and in the Brattleboro area at the Multicultural Center with Jill Williams and Camilla Tamri. I don't know if I am pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if not. And in collaboration there. We, one of our struggles initially was in terms of hiring, and we recently were able to hire a full-time neighborhood liaison, is what her title is, and her name is, oh goodness, her last name, Lina Samadi. She just started last week, and so she has been training in HCRS practices, as well as has already been over at the Multicultural Center. Prior to hiring Lena, however, we did change one of our case managers. We have, of course, therapists and case managers at HCRS, and we transferred one of our case managers, Kim Cook, to half-time on the grant. And she had been co-locate and continues to co-locate at the Multicultural Center, where we're working on building rapport with the clients, introducing ourselves and the idea around mental health, because we have stigma around mental health here. And of course, culturally, we understand that it's challenging to ask for assistance in that realm. One of the things that we have been working on has been training, and we had a meeting where we also included Lori Vatican from United Counseling Services to join with us in meeting with Dr. Karen Fondacaro from the University of Vermont. And we're very excited that she is able and willing to do pretty extensive trainings that will take place in April. 3 days. We really, we're talking about what might be best in terms of doing them spread out or concurrently, and she felt that it would be good, and so did Lori, as we did, to do it back to back. So there'll be three days in a row. And then we are doing we have a platform called Relias, and that's where we have internal trainings for HCRS staff. We were excited to learn that it's the same platform that UCS uses, and with some consultation, that makes it great, because we are going to be utilizing, it's actually already up, who are the Afghan newcomers, to look in depth at the culture and their experiences, and to help folks become more aware of that. Kim, in her capacity of being there, we really thought initially, again, thinking that folks were going to be reticent, but pretty quickly they were interested to sit with Kim, to find out more, to begin telling their stories, and to want to come and get some services. So Kim has been transporting some of the new clients over to HCRS for intakes and assessments. We are working on finding the best time, but we're working on setting up, a therapeutic group run by one of our therapists, along with Kim and Lena. So that will be a group, and additionally a therapeutic art group is what we're looking at, and also exploring with the new refugees what it is they would like. I had a discussion with our community health team member who works for HCRS and is also part of the community health team, about possibly bringing a yoga class. So we're looking at that and trying to nail down a time. And I think that wraps it up for me. Steve, I don't know if you'd like to add to that.
I just wanted to thank you, Judith. I just wanted to mention that Dr. Fondacaro is going to be training our staff in chronic trauma response and treatment that is evidence-based, created at the University of Vermont. So we're very excited to be a part of that. Lori, would you like to add anything? It's great to be in partnership with you around this, and just wanted to give you an opportunity if you wanted to say anything.
I'm really excited about all of this, I have to tell you. And Megan, this is an opportunity for you and Grace to meet our counterparts, because I'm not sure that's happened. So No, I'm just, we do have the new training up in Relias, and I'll have all staff see that. I want to see it first, and then I'll assign it to all the staff. So we're ready to go. Lots of folks are tuning in on April 26th, 27th, and 28th, which is the upcoming training. So we'll have case managers and clinicians participating both in the Manchester office and Bennington.
Great. Thanks so much.
Great. Megan, I see you have a question.
Hopefully my internet won't cut out again.
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased that HCRS has been working with Lori over at UCS. We do need some mental health, I think, outreach, especially to our community members, our existing New American community members here. So mentioned a lot of stigma around being open to getting mental health services such as counseling. There are situations in which I can see counseling services being useful to some of our clients, but they may not be exactly open to it, partly because they're not, they may not have a accurate idea of what that might look like and how that might help them in their particular situations. So what I'm really hoping is that HCRS could help us over here in Bennington to do some basic educational outreach around mental health, what that means, what counseling is, what that looks like in the US context, and breaking down some stigma around that so that our clients can feel more comfortable seeking that if it is something that they do indeed need. Is there a plan in place to support Bennington in that work?
I would say yes, we're working on it in terms of we have the beginnings of a draft memorandum of understanding with Lori, and certainly we can reach out and discuss the needs and working together on that. One of the things I would say too is that, you know, our view of the, you know, the therapist and one-on-one is one way of doing things, and certainly educating around that is important. But it's also, I think, equally as important to recognize that sometimes, especially in dealing with trauma, that sometimes it is in other group settings or through, you know, non-traditional ways, like, you know, like yoga, like some narrative stories. So I think that it'll be important to discern what they're bringing themselves with their ideas, and what we can offer them to bridge it and meet somewhere together.
When you refer to them, are you referring to us as service providers over here in Bennington, or are you referring to our clients?
Sorry, no, the clients. I think it's important in engaging with the clients. Sorry, my apologies there. To find out things that they're interested in. I know over at the Multicultural Center, one of the things that they have been utilizing is sewing, because it's really important to the culture for some of the folks. And so they've been doing sewing groups there. And then that's a really good way to reduce stress, because in a sense, it's also it's a mindful activity. So, you know, mindfulness is super important, and being focused on something that takes the mind off of, sometimes they're saying that it's hard. The clients are saying that it's hard to think because they're constantly remembering. But I would love to be in touch with you and see what we can, how we can assist.
That kind of thing is actually a little bit of what I'm hoping that we can get started here, especially now that ECDC has an actual physical space. It's something that we haven't had here in Bennington, but I think that it could be really helpful to introduce the idea of wellness and taking care of your mental well-being. And that can also be a venue for discussing counseling, but not necessarily the only one. But generally outreach like that is something that I'm interested in getting started here.
I think a separate discussion on how to, continue discussing will help. Maybe after this meeting, Judith, you, myself, and Megan, we can continue with our ongoing discussion about this.
Thank you, Joe. That sounds great.
Great. Thanks, everyone. So one thing that was mentioned that I do want to draw on just a bit is around the role of the qualitative experiences of our folks who are here, whether they're newly arrived or not. And what I would just like to share with folks is an initiative that's part of our Working Communities initiative. And it's an ethnographic interview project that we are launching in our region. And the goal for this project is really to determine what are newcomers' experiences, both folks who have arrived perhaps 20, 30 years ago, what was their experience when they first arrived, and what are the parts of Vermont life that allowed or supported them staying here, as well as our newly arrived neighbors. And so the first installation of this initiative is a workshop in which folks can learn how to do ethnographic interviewing. And for those who aren't familiar, ethnographic interviews are people-focused. They tend to be more focused on the interviewee rather than the information you're trying to extract from someone. So it's a often anonymous, but really values qualitative lived experience rather than numbers and all of those different, more traditional research or data collection methods. And so the first step is to train community members who are interested in ethnographic interviewing skills, because this project will compensate community members through our fellows program. So you have to go to a workshop, you have to kind of sign up with the project, but we'll be paying community members who may or may not have an immigrant background to explore a thread of what it feels like to find Vermont. We're calling this the Finding Vermont Project. Both how did someone arrive at Vermont? How'd you literally find Vermont in your life? But also when you first arrived, that colloquial phrase, how do you find it? How did it find you? How welcomed were you? What is helping you stay? And so again, this is something I will drop this file in the chat. And again, it will be a paid opportunity for folks to conduct their own research. Again, we have no expectations of what questions specific folks might want to ask. It's really just to focus on their experiences as newcomers and what that means. So I'm going to drop this file for anyone who might be interested. The workshop is this coming weekend, but there will be other opportunities if there's someone who can't make it on Saturday but really do want to participate in this initiative. They can just reach out to me and we'll find a way to bring them in. So again, if someone wants to learn about a very specific thing, we will pay that individual to do interviews, and we'll also compensate some of the interviewees, provide a gas card or a gift card, a stipend for their time participating. This is really a research project that's aimed to value the experiences of our newcomers in a way that is unique, especially as an economic development organization, I'll say, but it's also unique to our region. So I'll mention we have the experts at the Vermont Folklife Center supporting this effort. So it should be really exciting. It's a new resource we're bringing to the region, and share with anyone who you think might be interested. There are still slots open for this weekend. Any parting questions or comments? It's 11:01, so we might actually get out on time today. Seeing, hearing none. Thanks, everyone. Again, I'll post this on the YouTube and share it with folks later. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.